What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Bodacious Rant. I just did something very stupid in front of Burn.
I can't with you.
Anyways, I hope everyone's having a great November so far. I know we're still really into it, but hope everybody's doing good. Not only have Burn and I been talking that it's a solid month for entertainment-wise, mostly streaming. I feel like there are a couple big movies coming out this month. Some Oscar contenders for sure, like Napoleon. Thanksgiving, that could win an Oscar. I don't know how, but maybe if actually, you know what? I think horror definitely deserves more credit in the Academy Award stuff. Given not everything does that. You know what? It doesn't matter. We're going on. I'm going on a wrong tangent here, but we're doing another video game review where. Burn and I game it up occasionally. I lag on it most of the time because I get distracted, all that good stuff. But we are talking about, another genre-defining game, or console-defining game, really, where this is definitely one of those franchises, one of those games that kind of will be set apart with Sony and the PlayStation. And if you haven't guessed it already from the title and the thumbnail and stuff, we are talking about Sony's Spider-Man 2. And that just dropped a few weeks ago. Only for the PlayStation, I think. It's not available everywhere yet. So we are going to dive into spoilers of the game at least a little bit. We're not going to talk about everything, but some of our favorite stuff, which may be spoilery. So keep that in mind. If you haven't played the game, but you want to, play more of it, finish it, come on back. Because it's not too bad of a game if you just main the storyline pretty quick. And also, please do not forget to give us a like, ring the bell, and of course subscribe. We appreciate you all. Love the support and want to keep this going, especially into 2024. So good, all good stuff. But Burn, I know I lead us a lot, but I'm gonna throw it to you. Why don't you tell people more about this about the so-called Spider-Man 2 game? What's it about? What do we do in that game?
Yeah, so obviously this is a sequel to Insomniac's 2018 Marvel's Spider-Man. That came out for exclusively for the PlayStation, and so did this one. They also did it's not a sequel, but it's kind of like a spin-off game. It's a little bit of an in-between game with their Miles Morales game that also came out. I think that was like 2020. Winter of 2020. It was a launch title for the PS5, and now we have obviously this one, Spider-Man 2, which is, as you mentioned, exclusive to the PS5. So yeah, Insomniac is a PlayStation studio, so they make a lot of PlayStation games. Known for these, and also the Ratchet and Clank games that have been coming out recently. So they've been killing it in the video game department. Basically, at least them as a studio have released more titles for the PS5 than a lot of the other ones that we love, like Sony Santa Monica and Naughty Dog. It seems like Insomniac is really pushing the boundaries with the PS5, and certainly they've done that with Spider-Man 2, with the graphics modes that they have on there, really utilizing the next gen power of these modern consoles, which is awesome to see. Like, every single mode in this game has ray tracing and runs at a smooth frame rate depending on which mode you pick. The fidelity here is crazy, and it's definitely, like you mentioned, a sort of like a console defining game, a console seller, if you will, where it's like people are going to be buying this game or buying a PlayStation just to play this game. So it's like, honestly, it's glad that it's so good as someone who's a Spider-Man fan and people who are comic book fans, that we're getting something like this, because it seems kind of like a rarity. Ever since Rocksteady ended their Arkham trilogy, we haven't really gotten a lot of really big AAA level video games within the superhero genre. We have a few here and there, but a lot more misses than hits. Unfortunately, I did like the Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out a few years ago, but then we get like things like Marvel's Avengers, which really dropped the ball in a lot of fronts. But Insomniac Studios does it yet again, 3 for 3 in my opinion with Spider-Man 2. So that's the overall rundown of what this game is. Obviously, a sequel to the first game and a sequel to the Miles Morales spin-off for anyone who played that as well, which I hope people did, because it was a really good one too.
I'm unfortunately one of those people that did not play Miles Morales. It's just one of those things I've put off. But yes, exactly. Like Burn said, for those of you who did play the last game, this is a direct sequel to the first one and a sequel to the Miles Morales, like a continuation of it, really. Basically, it's all kind of just one one thing. And now we kind of like how this one, the last one did it. We're kind of already in the middle of all the Spider-Man, middle of his career as Spider-Man. Miles Morales is now a little more accomplished Spider-Man on his end with Peter, and yeah, I think last game we had the Sinister Six. This time we are faced with the Lizard, Sandman, Craven the Hunter was a big surprise. We're like, holy shit, he's actually a very big deal right now. Like I never would have. It's one of those things that growing up as a kid watching the show, I never thought, he's there. He's not really a big threat. Never really thought of him that way. I thought I was always like, oh, this is Marvel's Tarzan version essentially. But this game, he's a very great villain. However, you know what? No, he's great on his own level. But we also get the luxury of having Venom finally come back into a game. Now, my favorite version of Venom was the Ultimate Spider-Man game from like 10 plus years ago. I don't even remember when I played it, but it was based on the Ultimate Universe, the Ultimate version of Spider-Man and Marvel. So that was a really fun game to play, especially when you saw other heroes kind of sprinkled in the game. But anyways, this is kind of like what Arkham City and Arkham Knight did for Batman Arkham Asylum. This one does a great way of taking what we love from the other games and just improving upon it. The mechanics are a little bit different. I felt like it was a lot cleaner to play with this time around, especially when it comes to parrying, like blocking hits and also dodging and stuff. So I really like that refined gameplay. And also the web wings. I think that's one of the funnest things that definitely brought back the nostalgia of the Arkham games, where you could just glide around everywhere. This one was really smart about it, which I really liked, that you could do the whole airstream thing. Because there are a couple parts in the game where I was like, I need to get there fast. I just follow a couple streams. I'm like, yes, I'm there. And what else am I gonna say? I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was like you said, Bern. This is, if I didn't have a PS5 yet, this would definitely be a game to want to pick up when I do get one. Given I already have one, but I'm just saying if I didn't have it, you know what I mean. And yeah, I mean, where do we start, Bern? Like, what should we talk about first besides the gameplay bit I just was like raving about?
Well, I mean, yeah, let's go ahead and just stay there. Like they definitely this time around, the 2018 game was such a lightning in a bottle. Basically, like they really put their best foot forward in making what people want in a Spider-Man experience. They nailed the traversal, they nailed the combat, and they nailed the characters. But sticking with the traversal and the combat, they took a basically if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. Everything in that first game was really solid and a really great foundation. And like you said, they just built upon that. The web swinging is a lot quicker. I booted up the first game not too long ago just to kind of compare it and seeing how it is to traverse around. And yeah, Spider-Man 2 is so much faster. Again, utilizing the power of the PS5 when the first game was for the PS4. You can just see the difference there, where you're just moving through the city at such a fast clip, with just the web swinging alone, and add on to that the fact that you can, like you mentioned, web glide through the city and use the wind tunnels to sort of push you through sort of like open areas or through long stretches of different districts. Things are just so fast in this game, and that's so fun. As someone who just likes to roam around and explore open worlds, it's so quick and it's so immediate and so satisfying and fun to play through. So the improvements on that aspect have just been so great. It's like how much more could they have done with it, and thinking about that in the first game, like how do you even improve on this? And they definitely did, in my opinion. And yeah, and in terms of the combat, I think they, like you mentioned, they sort of streamlined things a little bit. Where in the first game, it relied a lot on like gadgetry and the weapon wheel, where you would select different gadgets. It got a little bit cumbersome, and usually, in terms of me at least, combat sort of really got stale to a certain point, where all I had to do really in that game was sort of just air punch someone up, beat them up, pull the next guy next to me, beat them up in the air, pull the next guy next to me, beat him up in the air, and then just sort of spam different abilities, and different gadgetry and stuff. So the fact that they're they're mapped to different buttons on the controller. It makes it so much quicker to just launch an attack and use your specials, and the gadgets this time around are used more for like setups. It feels like knocking people up into the air, so then you can go and like attack them and stuff. So it was just a little bit more complementary to the combat, whereas I feel in the first game it could be used a little bit more as a crutch. Like here, you have to be very methodical and think about how you're approaching different combat scenarios. Where it felt like in the first game, I could kind of just turn my brain off and just let it do its job. I don't know how you felt about that.
To be honest, I had that mentality with this one just because it was so easy to do some of the gadget stuff while also doing the special abilities, which I thought was a really good, just addition to the game, because you feel like you have two different move sets. You have the gadget stuff. They're both able to help set stuff up, but for the most part, I noticed that the special abilities, when I really upgraded those, they were essentially kill shots, and then my gadget stuff, they were a little bit weaker, definitely more for setup. So that was one fault I did, just because, again, I mainlined the storyline after a certain point because I just wanted to get through it. You definitely need to explore the world, but even then, the side quests are pretty fun of itself. You got some puzzle kind of stuff. You have typical fighting things. So while a couple of the side quests will feel very similar, majority of them, but there are a couple that do set it aside. So it's kind of a new way to play, and the other thing, kind of segueing into the character part, I thought it was quite nice to have two different skill sets with Miles and Spider-Man. They both fight very similar, but their powers and their abilities are a little bit different. But they're to the point where I'm like, I don't care which one I play, I'm gonna have fun regardless. I didn't have a favorite. But the only thing I will say I had a favorite with looks wise was mostly Peter's stuff. I feel like they just got that look down for him, where he's the OG Spider-Man, so they definitely do a lot for his look. Miles still had some cool suits. I feel like the suit selection in the last game was definitely superior to this one. So I don't know how you felt about the character design and all that stuff, Bern, unless there was something else you wanted to talk about the gameplay real quick.
No. I mean, just quickly to add on to the fact that, yeah, I mean, I obviously liked how they sort of balanced the two Spider-Mans, having their own separate skill trees, but also being similar enough to where jumping in between one and the other wasn't at all, like, sort of, like, confusing or having to recalibrate your approach to combat. I thought they did a really good job of making them distinct in their own ways, but not too much so that you were kind of lost every time you would jump in between the two. So I thought they did a pretty good job of that, and also balancing Miles's powers a little bit, because I'll say in his solo game he is just OP. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, combat is just so easy in that game. So I'm glad that they dialed him down a little bit, and they also brought Peter up a little bit too. In particular, when he gets the symbiote powers, I felt like it really evened out their power levels. So I thought that was really, really well done on that aspect. But yeah, in terms of the costumes and the character designs and stuff, I think their initial suits are I do like them better than their first appearance suits. In these games, I thought their base looks were really cool. And yeah, I guess it's a little bit it's up to people's personal taste. It seemed like the first game drew a lot from a lot of the different comics in terms of the different suit designs and stuff that they were choosing from. And here they got a little bit more niche. I would think they really pulled from a little bit more obscure things, and also it seems like they partnered with a few artists to bring some original designs. So I kind of admire that fact. Bringing in things that we wouldn't typically think of when thinking of different like Spider-Man looks. But I'm sure at some point they're going to be adding a bunch of different suits, because that's what they did for the first game. Months and months down the line, they started adding suits that a lot of fans wanted, and Insomniac has shown they've listened to the fans when it comes to that aspect. So if people have a suit in there that they want and it's not there, I'm sure it'll get added at some point. Oh, you're muted.
I apologize, Bern. Technical difficulties there. But I will say, I'm kind of bummed that the white Spider-Man 29-9 suit is not in the game. I really like that one from the first one. Actually, once I beat the storyline, I just mainly use those two suits and the Antioch suit. Those are my three favorites out of that game. But yeah, I will say, like, At first, I felt like their designs for the upgraded suits were a little too much going on with the little small like extra details and stuff. But over time, I was like, I don't care. The colors alone looked way better, definitely more rich than the first two games because they do have the original suits to kind of compare it to, and I'm like, man, did they really look that muted? And I'm kind of looking back, and I'm like, no, yeah, they kind of were. So improvement on that, and
Yeah, like I did.
no, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize how the first Insomniac Spider-Man suit was very orange. With the red. I really like the very vibrant red and blue in this suit. But yeah, sorry.
You're
Go
a good
on.
burn, no worries. Um, I think the villains, though, again, that's one thing Insomniac. I love them and hate them is that they do go a little too much with the suits sometimes, where it's like, how do these low level villains, not low level necessarily, but how do these villains get this stuff and they still suck at crime? Um, but this one, like again, Craven looked like a total beast of a villain. Given not just saying because he's a hunter, but he was this is the first game he's a force to be reckoned with. So intimidating. Lizard was amazing. I think this is definitely one of the best iterations of him yet. And the graphics on this game, they really did a good job of the small little details, like whether you're in an action scene or the close-up cutscenes, you see all the scales and all the things on him, which is really well done for a game like this. And Venom was this one. This is, I think, the Venom that's gonna be talked about for a long time to come. I don't even know. If a Marvel movie can up it, maybe, but even then, Tom Hardy's Venom, I love that one too. But this one's got it, man. This thing, he is such a force of just not nature because he's an alien, but he's just massive and awesome. And we got to finally see Venom wings, which I guess that's something from the newer comics and stuff from what I've noticed. But it surprisingly worked for this game, and I kind of respect the game for kind of doing these small little, very deep, very almost niche details of like certain versions of characters and stuff. Um, I also like, given Mary Jane didn't have like a necessarily cool suit, I think her design is a lot better this time, and her missions were a lot more fun. Actually, when we came to Mary Jane, I was pretty excited to play her because she kind of has like a little like taser pistol, and then it morphs into a almost like semi-auto like laser gun. It's so much fun to play with. Um, and it's just I can't. What was your who was your favorite character overall, or did you have a favorite design for anyone, Burn?
I mean, just to briefly talk about all the things that you mentioned. Yeah, Craven was also a big surprise for me. I thought, like you, I was just kind of like wondering how are they gonna be able to make Craven cool, because in terms of like the Spider-Man's rogues galleries, he kind of sticks out as like, okay, like he's just a hunter guy, and like he's just a really good hunter. That's like his thing. How are they gonna make that interesting in the Spectacular Spider-Man?
He's like the shocker. He shocks
anim-
people.
yeah, he just hunts, like, okay, cool, I guess. These people have like crazy powers. Like, how are you gonna come up against them? But the way Insomniac wrote him and the way he was performed, really really cool stuff. Especially when you get to know like his motivations as you go on later into the game, and really rounds out his character in a very interesting and unexpected way. At least for me, not being very familiar with that character. I thought they did a really good job with him. And yeah, man, what more can you say? Venom was just sick, like all around. Like, we kind of know what a symbiote story is going to be like, but the way Insomniac executed it here was really really cool. And I gotta say, like, so far this is probably my favorite interpretation of Venom. He's so like menacing and so like, creepy and just monstrous. And Tony Todd, who does the voice for the Venom symbiote, just really really nails that feral animalistic energy coming from him, and just such a delight in that performance. And his design is just so cool. It's probably my favorite Venom design, where it takes all the elements of the classic comics, and a little bit more recent ones too, as you mentioned, with the whole wings stuff, and they just really make it their own. And yeah, what can I say? Venom was just everything I hoped he would be, and more. So So yeah, glad that they included him, and glad that they executed that story really really well with him. And yeah, the MJ missions, that was a big issue in the first game, where you had to stealth around and it was an instant fail when you would lose. So it got really frustrating in terms of the pacing of that game, where you had to slow everything down, not be Spider-Man, and you had to sneak around as MJ, and she would get caught and boom, game over. You had to start again. This time around, like you mentioned, they give her a gun and they let her go Mary Jane Wick on everybody. So it's really really cool, really fun this time around. And every, like you mentioned, every time we got to play as Mary Jane, I was very much looking forward to it too, because I was like, all right, let's shoot some food.
Yeah, especially near the end when symbiote started taking over. I was like, hell, like you ain't getting past. I was like, bad boy, just like ah. So that was a lot of fun. Again, with Venom being in this and like the lizard and stuff like that, that's the one thing that these Insomniac games do a really great job of, kind of like what Rocksteady did with Batman, is a lot of great Easter eggs to really hint at potential future of this game. With Harry Osborn being Venom, I'm sure there's gonna be some people who are not fans of it, but it actually really worked well. Um, I think that they definitely, Norman Osborn's got to come back as the Green Goblin. That'll be a very interesting design to see how they go about it. Are they going to go the more Marvel, literal Green Goblin about it? Or are they going to do more like the original Spider-Man movie? Or I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with that. But overall, I thought the character design was phenomenal. I can't wait to see what they do in the next game for it, especially because the Wolverine game that's still in development that we haven't heard much about in the last few years, that's going to be in the same universe as this with Insomniac. So that got me excited, because that means we can see the X-Men like this, and that'd be awesome. Other than that, I mean, segueing into the story, unless there was something else you want to come back to, Burn, on the character stuff, I think story, again, it was very solid, where Peter's struggling to just have a life as Spider-Man. He's trying to help Miles get into college, supportive of Mary Jane, trying to hold down a job, and then also trying to be a friend of Peter. So the symbiote playing into it is always a good storyline with Spider-Man, because it really just is that point in everyone's life where you're pulled in so many different directions. It really shows what we're susceptible to, and in this case, Peter's susceptibility to the symbiote and being reliant upon it. It really just goes to show, like, he's just like everyone else, and it's okay to ask for help or admit something. So I really like that aspect of it. Like you said, Craven's wanting to hunt the Sinister Six and Spider-Man eventually. It made sense too. He's the hunter on his last ride. He wants to go out in a blaze, so that was really cool. I like that Miles was also dealing with his trauma from his dad, losing his dad and stuff like that, and he's just trying to be a teenager too. So I totally get that. Yeah, like I said, I thought the story was really well done. Can't wait to see what's gonna happen, especially with the cutscenes we got with hinting at the other Spider member, Silk, and also Norman and Doc Ock. So I think Green Goblin's gonna have to happen in the third one. If they don't do it, then it's a big missed opportunity. But how did you feel about the story overall, Burn?
A lot like the first game and a lot like the Miles Morales game. I thought it was incredibly well done. It's really solid all the way around. I will say it doesn't hit quite the emotional highs that the first game had. That, especially particularly in the third act of that game, things get really really heavy in terms of the characters and their interpersonal relationships. So that, as much as that wasn't present in this game really, I feel like, handled a lot of the storylines really really well. It managed to balance all these big. They have so many more characters this time around, and I felt like they was able to do service to all of them and to their own personal stories, and and how all their own plots had basically the same theme, and they would kind of intersect on each other. Like the themes of just forgiveness, and themes of redemption, and a lot of relationships with people that you haven't seen in a long time. So being able to weave all of that together as well as they did is truly a really really cool feat that they were able to manage. And the characterization of these characters man, Insomniac just really understands them like to their core. And as someone who's been a Spider-Man fan for a really long time, it's really cool to see a property that you care about handled by people that care about it as much as you do. Because this stuff like this that we get, and stuff like the Arkham Batman games, where you can tell the love for the property is just absolutely there. And yeah, I mean, like, the performances all around were great, but I mean, in particular, shout outs to Yuri Lowenthal, who plays Peter Parker. I think after this game, it's safe for me to say that this is my favorite interpretation of Peter Parker, and probably the Spider-Man world as a whole. I mean, I love the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series, and I love all the movies to a certain extent, but just in terms of an overall package, I think this one just understands it the best. And this is a world that I really enjoy being in, and being able to play it is such a privilege, just to being able to play as these characters and interact as them. And it's just so fun to just experience this world. And would add on to that the fact of getting in Miles, who are here, who I wasn't sure how I felt about him in the first game, but after his own spin-off game and his character progression here, he's right up there too with Peter for me. So being able to play as both of them is really really fun. But yeah, I mean, like, when you get a Venom story, when you get a symbiote story, there's certain expectations that come with that, and I thought they absolutely nailed that. Interjecting this monkey wrench into the characters at their lowest point, with Craven and Venom showing up. It's like, it's just pure chaos, and it's just so fun to see. And when you get that symbiote suit, it's just a power fantasy at its finest. Just, and I mean, at the cost, of course, of the characters and their relationships. So as much as we like to see Spider-Man kick ass and have fun, it's fun to see Spider-Man suffer too. Poor fella. He has a really rough, and man, Insomniac just pulls no punches when it comes to his character. So yeah, in terms of I mean, to make a long story short, Insomniac's character work here is just excellent in my opinion.
Yeah, and last thing with the designs before I give my final thoughts on it, I will say I was really excited to see Agent Venom essentially in this game, as well as
Yeah.
anti-venom.
So cool.
A lot of great stuff. And Mary Jane as Scream, that symbiote, that was a really neat part too. A great villain, great little boss fight for them. Just everyone really dealing with their own inner demons. Essentially, this game was just solid all around. Having said all that, with everything we've talked about, I'm gonna have to give this game a hard 5 out of 5. This is definitely one of the best games, any superhero game. Like, some people may think it's better than Arkham Knight and Arkham City. Totally fine. Will not argue against that. I'm still a Batman person, but this is one of those games where it's like, yeah, you don't want, if you have a PlayStation, especially PS5, you have to play this. If you don't, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Whether you're into Marvel or not, this is just such a fun game to play.
So would that be a 10 out of 10 for you then, since we kind of do the whole video game thing? out of 10, just because it's a little harder to rate them on a scale of 5.
We don't do enough game stuff. I will work on that, Burn, where this is second nature to me. Yes, it's definitely a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 100%. I don't care. It's amazing. So all of that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, excellent. It's again a really really great entry into the Spider-Man series that we've gotten from Insomniac, and definitely a must buy for people who own a PS5. Such a fun game, such a great experience. In terms of the main story mode, you get a really great content there, and even in the side quests where they took a less is more approach to there, where there's a lot more meat on the bone in terms of the side quests. So I went ahead and got 100% on this game. It was a lot of fun. I had enjoyed it every time. I'm just waiting for New Game Plus to be added so I can go in there and play again with all my powers at their full extent. So that's going to be a lot of fun when they drop that in the near future. So for me, this one is going to be a 9 out of 10. Just excellent experience all around. Is it my game of the year? No, but it's up there in that discussion with a lot of great. 2023 has been an excellent year for video games, and had this game come out any other year, it would have won game of the year hands down. But it just so happens to launch in one of the most stacked years in gaming that we've ever gotten. And as someone who enjoys playing video games, it's just been a great it's just been a great time to be a lover of video games. But yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. I'm sure it's going to be nominated for a bunch of awards come the Game Awards season, and it absolutely deserves so.
Well, all good stuff, Burn. That's high praise, really. Yeah, this is a great game. Game of the year. I'm gonna have to really do my math on that one and really just kind of take inventory into it because we're already nearing the end of the year, so that's probably something we'll review about at our end of the year stuff. Until next time, everyone. Let us actually, for those of you who played the game or thinking about it, or you already played it and finished it. What did you think of it? Did you play the last one, Miles Morales? How did this stack up against those two? Anything. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Keep an eye out for other reviews. We got the Marvels coming out soon, and we got again Napoleon at the end of this month. Loki's finishing up. That's another one. I gotta
catch up.
Yeah, I gotta burn through that show real quick. So, yeah. Until next time, everyone. Stay bodacious and keep on ranting for the both of us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, as always. We'll catch y'all on the next one.